Senator Coons.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to thank you for holding this hearing today, and I'm grateful for my colleagues for their engagement as well, and to Sheriff Langenbaugh, my condolences and regret. I'm so sorry that we've got a hearing today that is really about an unacceptable delay in response to your loss. The loss of your wife, Shelley, and the impact on you and your family is something I know must be very hard to come to Washington and have to testify about, and the embarrassing delays in the PSOB are things I hope we will all work together to address and resolve so this doesn't happen to other families in the future. Ms. Mason, I appreciate your responsiveness and accountability in your response to questions here today. As somebody who previously was in county government for a decade and responsible for paramedics, for 911 responders, for volunteer fire service, and principally for a police department that went through a tragic line of duty death, I have a small insight into how deeply upsetting it might be to go this long without having a legitimate claim appropriately and promptly resolved. So thank you for sharing of your experience with us today, and thank you again, Mr. Chairman, for calling this hearing. I just would be interested if there's anything else, Mr. Sherrill, Mr. Storch, that you'd like to share with us about both the GAO and the IG's report. It's been covered, but if you can discuss anything else that may not have gotten fully explored today about your findings in terms of delays in the PSOB program, and what types of issues in particular, Mr. Sherrill, have persisted from your 2009 report. My larger question really is whether you both believe that the Department of Justice has made progress on the recommendations made in the previous reports.
Thank you very much for the question, Senator. The reports identify a number of different areas where there were problems in the implementation of the PSOB program. With regard to the issue of making sure that claimants have the information they need to know what's required, that's an area where there has been some improvement in terms of checklists and things like that. But as we've told the department, there's still room for more improvement, and there needs to be more improvement. And we've just found out, getting information about this, the results of the study and the new PSOB 2.0 that's being contemplated and the like. And obviously, we're going to look very closely at that and see how that's being implemented and what the impact of that is on the issues we identified in the report. So one area is making sure that the people who are making the claims and the people who work with them, the people in the agencies, that sort of thing, know what's required. And then another area that we saw persistently, really, going back to our 2008 report in some respects, and then in our more recent report, are issues related to the legal review and making sure that's done in a timely fashion and it's appropriately coordinated. As you know from our report, near the end of the period that we were looking at in our last audit, that function was moved from OJP's Office of Legal Counsel to a new PSOB counsel. But wherever that responsibility lies, it's important that it be appropriately coordinated so that that process doesn't unnecessarily lengthen the review process. And so, as the Senator said at the outline, as the Chairman said, that there's fair and timely consideration. So both those issues are places where there really is room for improvement. We're going to be watching to see if it happens.
Good. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
And I've already mentioned the issue about establishing more specific concrete targets for the level of approach performance desired. The other important piece here is, as part of our recommendations, was reporting reliable data for whatever measures are established. And the IG's report raised a couple of issues in this respect that bear close consideration. IG found that there were still issues with systematically tracking the points of time between certain key milestones in the program. So that's very important, especially if you're going to try to figure out where the bottlenecks might be going forward. Excuse me, and the IG also raised some issues with regard to, while the DOJ was doing some informal checks of reliability, didn't have a system in place for sort of formal internal controls to make sure the data being reported are reliable. That's important.
So two questions, if I might, to Ms. Mason. First, there was an exchange you just had with another senator about a continuous improvement process, what the targets will be, how things will be reported. Having worked in the manufacturing sector and the public sector on similar processes, one of the challenges is not just the collection of data and the reporting of data, but actionable steps. Having a re-engineered process where there are moments when someone gets a flag, and then if the flag isn't acted on, it gets bounced up to another level so that non-responsive other agencies, a failure to process the most basic information gets noticed early and acted on. We've also heard about how a lack of connection of outreach to state and local law enforcement, to the first responder community to make sure they really know what needs to be filed is a key piece of this. What additional resources do you need to meet these obligations? And tell us about the steps you have taken that you maybe haven't gotten a chance to cover so far, and what additional steps you're committed to taking going forward.
So one of the things I'd like to make sure that you all understand is my commitment to improving this process. And so in terms of implementing the recommendations from the business process improvement, I meet monthly with our team. We have a person in our office of the Chief Information Officer whose sole job is the implementation of PSOB 2.0. And I meet with the whole team on at least a monthly basis to get an update and progress against that. I meet with the whole PSOB leadership team every other week. We call it the PSOB beautification process. But we meet every other week to deal with the issues to move this along and improve this. So one of the things that we've done in terms of being able to use our resources better and to communicate and address this legal review issue is that lawyers are assigned to the cases from the beginning. We are using this scoring mechanism again to put cases in the proper framework to be resolved. And one of the things that enables us to do is, again, is to notice pattern and notice trends. So when we deal with the complex cases, if we see a trend, as we did with the heart attack and stroke cases, we can figure out what's going on here, how do we deal with this, how do we triage this, and improve the process to deal with the bottleneck. And one of the things that will happen with the PSOB 2.0 is we will have better data, more reliable data, more to be able to determine what's happening, where are the slow-ups in the process, and where can improvements be made. And one of the things that once we have the system in place, we can do more of the outreach in terms of educating law enforcement agencies across the country about how the process works and enable people to go out and help them more and save time from other things that we've had people engaged in without having this automated system.
What else could we do in Congress, in your view, that will help ensure that in the next administration, in the next OJP, in the next DOJ, these issues don't reemerge in 2, 4, 6 years, that the work that you're doing and the hard work that's been done to identify the problems, to bear down on them, and to re-engineer the process stays fixed?
Well, I think that what you're doing is works in terms of the holding us accountable. I think that the scrutiny, I will tell you that the regular letters that I received from Senator Grassley got my attention when I got his first letter in January of 2015. It got my attention. We did make some changes in 2013 that we thought would improve the process. We gave it some time to work and realized it did not work. And so hearing from you all about what you're hearing and where the issues are helps us. We meet regularly with the stakeholders, some of whom are here to support us today, and we meet with them regularly and hear from them about where are the challenges. We meet with the Fallen Firefighters Association. We meet with the Concerns of Police Survivors Organization. We meet with the FOP to find out where are the issues, and we took those into account when we drafted our regulations.
Well,
so continuing to hear is what's important.
I look forward to continuing to work with the chairman, with Senator Klobuchar, and others of my colleagues on making sure that this stays fixed and addressed. I appreciate your responsiveness, your engagement, and your commitment to accountability for resolving this. These are fact patterns that we should not have. Those who give their lives in protecting the public should not have their families have to wait and wade through a bureaucratic maze. I understand how this has evolved, but I am determined to work with you to make sure that we get this resolved. Thank you.